Car camping, van life, taking a vehicle on the open road to travel freely. Sounds amazing, doesn't it? Just got to buy a motor. Turns out that's a lot harder than I thought it was going to be. This is the story of my search for a vehicle that I wanted to take for travel, for accommodation, and to take me to loads of festivals this summer. I've been thinking about doing this for years. Right at the start of my travels, I lived out of a saloon car for 2 weeks in Alaska. I've driven converted vans around New Zealand and Portugal, and I've been on more road trips than you can shake a stick at. I love being on the road. I started out thinking I wanted a big car like an estate car or a people carrier. I looked for weeks on end at Ford Galaxies, Subaru Outbacks, and even Skoda Superbs, but they weren't superb, and I decided that I wanted to have more room. My 2-week trip in this car camper in New Zealand was amazing, but not being able to sit up in bed every morning became a real drag. So cars were out and vans were in. Right, what vans are there? This should be simple enough. Wrong. Short wheelbase, medium wheelbase, long wheelbase. How many seats? Front wheel drive, rear wheel drive, 4-wheel drive, H1, H2, H3. Windows in the back or not. What manufacturer? Ford, Volkswagen, Mercedes, Vauxhall. Oh, the Vivaro looks nice. What's that? It's basically the same van as a Renault Trafic and a Nissan Primastar. Things got very, very confusing. This is getting complicated. Did I want it completely converted? A basic conversion? Just clean and tidy, or looking like a workman had just finished a shift and tossed the keys my way? Because all of these were an option. I'm not ashamed to say I was seriously overwhelmed. I had to start making some decisions to narrow down the field. I had to figure out what was important to me. Reflecting on my previous adventures, I realised that some of the best times were when I was travelling with others. So with that in mind, and the notion that more is usually better, I decided I wanted at least 3 seats in the front of the van. Team road trips are absolutely mega, and I didn't want to limit myself to like just 1 passenger. So I started to view some vans just to get an idea of the market, what it felt like to sit in them, what the sellers were like. Could I do a wall sit in the back of the van? It was a test to see if I could sit up in bed, and I found out so much. Number 1, prices can vary a lot. A lot of sellers were testing the market during this hot season. The spring in the UK, people getting ready to go out on their summer travels. The same van, the same mileage, the same year, in the same condition could vary in price for up to £1,000. And when my budget was 3 to 5 grand, that is a massive difference. I was using Auto Trader for my search, which led me to a lot of dealerships. Now let me tell you, van dealerships are very, very different to car dealerships, certainly at my price point. There are no signs out front, no comfy sales office, no prices in the windscreens, and the vans are often unwashed, and the sales techniques can be, well, questionable. I visited one yard where I disliked and distrusted the person immediately, and my opinion of him only got worse during my visit. I wouldn't have taken a van for him even if he was giving them away for free. Feeling a little disheartened and having seen a bunch of YouTubers raving about overlanding, I had a little dalliance with getting a 4x4, like a Discovery or a Land Cruiser. But that soon ended as I realised the vast majority of my driving would be on tarmac. So, back to the vans. And as I mentioned before, I was really liking the look of the Vauxhall Vivaro, or the Renault Trafic, or the Nissan Primastar. So I started to look at some of those. They look magic from the outside, gorgeous even, but the cabin is just, The dashboard looks at the same time futuristic, but incredibly basic. Ugly even. I pretended I could live with it for a little while, but in truth I couldn't. I'd be spending a lot of time in that cab, and I wanted to, well, I didn't need to love it, but I didn't want to hate it either. So I knew roughly what I wanted, lots of things that I didn't as well. So I just needed to watch the market and then make the jump. I tried eBay for a little while, but the UA and search capabilities of Facebook Marketplace won me over in the end. You can save listings, see them all together, check when they were first listed, whether the price has gone up or down. It's just a really good way of seeing a fast moving market. I watched for a week or so, earmarking several vans, and sadly watched as quite a number of my favourites got snapped up really quickly. It was time. I had the money, I knew what I wanted, I'd done all the prep, so I booked in to view a number of vans that I had a genuine interest in buying. I looked at a couple of Transits and another Vivaro just to check that I couldn't live with the cabin, and I couldn't. And then eventually I saw another Ford Transit which had a small conversion done to it and had spent the last 3 years being driven around Europe between ski resorts and surf beaches. This sounded like the one for me. It was a little high on mileage, but it had a really good service record, and most of those miles have been done on motorways. I like the people, and I like the fact that the van already had a story for me to add to. Following a test drive, a last look around, and a brief negotiation, I bought my new van, my new wheels, my new life. Have you bought a van? What was your experience like? Let me know in the comments down below. And while you're there, give this video a little thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already. And come and join me in the next episode where I'll show you the new van and my first day in it.